Hey there, tonight we're diving into a chapter of history that's rarely glamorous, but brutally real, the life of a royal palace servant. Not the kind you see in costume dramas, gracefully holding silver platters or fluffing feather pillows, but the real deal. The back-breaking, sleepless, dignity-crushing grind that kept palaces running behind their glittering facades. So as you get ready to drift off tonight, dim the lights, get cozy, and maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum in the background. And before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you listening from? What time is it there? Drop a comment. I always find it fascinating to see our sleepy little community connecting across the world. And hey, if you enjoy these kinds of slow, immersive bedtime histories, a like or even a subscribe would mean the world. It keeps this sleepy time train going. All right, deep breath. Let's go back in Timonot to royalty, not to knights or queens but to the shadows, to the forgotten people who made their luxury possible. Congratulations. You've just woken up as a royal servant in a palace somewhere in Europe. The exact country doesn't matter much, the rules of your life are almost always the same. Whether you're in Versailles, Windsor, or Schönbrunn, what matters is this. You are at the absolute bottom of a very tall and very ancient ladder, and every rung above you is stomping down without mercy. The day begins long before the sun even thinks of rising. You're jolted awake by the scratchy fabric of your shared bedding and the snores of a dozen other exhausted bodies crammed into a narrow attic room. There's no time to stretch or yawn. The senior servant barks your name, and your feet hit the freezing stone floor before your eyes even fully open. You're not allowed to speak unless spoken to. You're not allowed to walk too loudly or breathe too heavily. You're expected to be invisible. You shuffle into your plain, threadbare, uniform-itchy wool that smells faintly of old sweat and chamber pots. Personal hygiene? A joke. You share one cracked basin of icy water with everyone else, and there's no soap left. Doesn't matter. No one cares if you're clean. You're not meant to be seen. Your first task is lighting fires in the noble rooms. That means creeping silently through stone corridors with your bundle of damp kindling, trying not to drop anything or make a noise. If a nobleman hears you and wakes up, you'll be beaten. If you're too slow and their room is cold when they rise, you'll be punished. Every step is a gamble. You learn to walk like a ghost. And yet, you never stop sweating. Not from warmth, but from fear. The fear of being noticed. The fear of doing something wrong. The fear of being replaced. Because in this world, servants are like bricks in a wall, identical, interchangeable, disposable. Once the fires are lit and the hearths are glowing, you scurry to the kitchens. Your job? Haul buckets of water from the well again, and again, and again. Each bucket weighs more than you can comfortably carry, but there's no time to rest. The palace kitchens are chaos. Cooks are shouting, pots are boiling, knives are flying. And somewhere beneath it all, you're scrubbing vegetables until your fingers bleed, or plucking feathers from dead pheasants, or trying not to cry as scalding grease spits onto your arms. Breakfast for the nobles must be flawless, even if your own stomach is empty, which it is, always. You're not fed until the second shift, and even then, it's scraps, bread crusts, a sliver of dried fish, maybe thin stew if you're lucky. Your back aches, your hands are raw, and the day hasn't even properly started. Next comes chamber pot duty. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. The nobles relieve themselves in ornate pots by their beds, and it's your job to fetch, carry, dump, and scrub them. No gloves, no masks. Just the stench of human waste baked into your nose, your clothes, your soul. If you're caught wrinkling your nose or making a face, you're lashed. It's considered disrespectful. You're supposed to be grateful. Servants who complain are seen as ungrateful, lazy, or rebellious. There's a special punishment for that. They're made to scrub floors with lye or kneel in gravel for hours, or worse. Publicly whipped in front of their peers to set an example. Every day is a dance of silent obedience and silent suffering. There's no praise, no encouragement, only correction, only consequence. And heaven help you if a noble decides you're their new plaything. Because yes, sometimes they do that. Whether it's games, pranks, or cruel entertainment, you're expected to smile and endure it. Because you're nothing. You're less than nothing. You're the servant behind the curtain. And that's just the morning. After morning duties, there's no pause, no coffee break, no chance to sit. You're sent to assist in whatever part of the palace is falling behind. Maybe the laundries, where steaming vats of water hiss and bubble as underpaid women stir linens with paddles twice their size. You join them, sweating through layers of itchy wool as steam curls your hair and blurs your vision. You're scrubbing shirts and tablecloths with lye and crushed soapwort until your wrists lock up and your knuckles split open. The stench of sweat, damp cotton, and chemical soap stings your eyes, but you keep scrubbing. You have to, because if the mistress of the household finds a yellow stain on her husband's undershirt, she won't scream at the laundry master. She'll scream at you, and then you'll spend the next 3 nights sleeping on stone without a blanket. Around midday, the palace buzzes with clattering shoes and chattering voices as nobles prepare for their meals or entertainments. You scuttle like a beetle along the walls, carrying messages, fetching goblets, or standing perfectly still in some shadowy corner while 2 lords bicker about hunting schedules or politics. You aren't allowed to look at them. You aren't allowed to speak unless directly ordered. Sometimes, a noble will test that. They'll make a joke, ask a question, try to trick you into slipping up. It's a game to them, a sport. But for you, it's a trap. One wrong answer, one mistaken smile, and you're punished. If you're lucky, it's verbal abuse. If not, they'll box your ears or worse. Some servants go deaf from repeated strikes to the head, and that's still considered part of the job. And if you're attractive, that's another level of danger entirely. Some nobles treat young servants like pets or prey. You've heard stories. Everyone has. You try to stay invisible, but sometimes invisibility isn't enough. As the nobles feast in the grand dining hall plates heaped with roasted game, candied fruit, and soft white bread, you're sent to wait behind their chairs or serve dishes with shaking hands. The table glows with golden candlelight. Laughter echoes against marble walls, and the scent of cinnamon, wine, and meat fills the room. But you don't get to taste any of it. You watch, stomach gnawing at itself, praying the nobles are too distracted to notice you. A dropped spoon, a spill, or even a misplaced napkin could mean the end of your position or worse, a public beating. As they toast to kings and gods, you remind yourself not to lock your knees. You've seen servants faint before. They fall face first onto the marble, blood, broken teeth, shattered noses, and still they're dragged out and scolded for embarrassing the household. After the feast, you help clear dishes until your arms ache. The grease from roasted meat clings to your sleeves. Your stomach growls so loud you worry someone will hear. Only then, if nothing went wrong, do you finally get a bite to eat. Usually in the scullery or servants' quarters, usually something cold and old, but you're too tired to care. You chew with your jaw half locked from exhaustion, barely tasting the food. And there's no time to linger, because now comes the worst task of all, cleaning up after the nobles have gone to bed. Candle wax has spilled across priceless rugs. Wine stains marble. A noble's dog has defecated in the corner of the reception hall. You and a few others are assigned to clean it all quickly, silently, perfectly. By the time you're done, it's deep into the night. Your eyes are bloodshot. Your knees wobble. Your body screams. And still, you must report to your superior to be dismissed. If they find fault in your posture or your tone, they'll assign you extra duties before sunrise, or dock your food ration, or send you back to polish brass handles until you can see your face in them. And after all of that, when you finally return to your cramped attic room, you collapse onto the same thin straw mattress. Your roommates are already snoring. One has wet themselves in their sleep. Another is coughing in that deep, rattling way that everyone fears. But you can't think. You barely feel. You just let the weight of your body press into the straw, your hands curled like claws, your feet blistered and raw. You don't dream. There's no energy left, just darkness, until the barking voice returns. before the sun rises, calling you back to another day of the same. You don't cry, you don't scream, you just stand, because you have no other choice. The next morning, your eyelids flutter open before the bell even rings. It's not from rest your body knows the rhythm now. It wakes from fear, not habit. Every part of you hurts. Your shoulders throb from carrying trays and buckets. Your knees crack when you rise. You slept in your uniform because changing in and out of it is a waste of precious minutes. The attic air is so cold your breath fogs. You tiptoe around the groaning, coughing bodies still scattered on the floor. Some servants don't get up. They've been punished and have no duties today, which is both a blessing and a sentence. No one talks. Talking in the servant quarters risks reprimand. The unspoken rule is clear. Silence is survival. The staircase down to the servant halls creaks like a living thing. Each step a betrayal. You pray no noble is wandering the corridors. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they get up early or stay out late. And if they see you first, they make demands. They might send you back to their room to relight a candle or rub their feet or fetch a book. You obey, always. You start your rounds in the great gallery, polishing endless feet of stone floor with rags strapped to your hands and knees. It's a humiliating, painful task, and not because of the labor though it is grueling, but because the nobles stroll past you like your furniture. Some don't notice you, some do, and laugh. A few children once dropped crumbs onto your freshly polished surface, just to watch you clean them up again. They called it a game. Their mother smiled. It builds character. One lady remarked, sipping her spiced wine. You kept your head down. After that comes the linen stores. You're helping sort hundreds of items, handkerchiefs, pillowcases, napkins, bed sheets. Each must be perfectly folded. Any wrinkles, and you're made to do it all again. Your hands are cracked and red. The dryness makes them itch constantly. A senior maid tells you to be grateful it means you're useful. Then you're off to the nursery, summoned by the governess to help with the children. Noble children are unpredictable. Some are sweet, some are monsters. You help them dress, buttoning elaborate little waistcoats, pulling on stockings, brushing out curls while the girls whimper and pull away. One boy spits on your shoes. You don't react. The governess pretends not to notice. It's part of the training, she says. You fetch toys, clean up spills, and carry soiled sheets from a child's nighttime accident down 3 flights of stairs. On the way, you trip and scrape your elbow. Blood stains the sheets. You know you'll be blamed for the mess. The head of housekeeping confirms it. You're assigned extra work tonight, no supper. But it doesn't end there. You're ordered to help in the upper halls during visiting hours. Important guests have arrived nobility from another region and the palace must shine. Everything must appear effortless. You spend hours polishing stair railings, trimming candles, and refilling decanters. Always just out of sight. Always ready to vanish. You pass the ballroom, where a quartet plays softly and elegant figures swirl in layers of velvet and silk. The chandeliers drip with crystal. Perfume hangs in the air like mist. You know that, in a few hours, you'll be on your knees scraping wax and vomit off that same marble floor. The wine will spill. Someone will get sick. You've seen it all before. And when it does happen, because it always does, you're there with a bucket and brush, trying to work fast enough that no one notices. Because nobles hate reminders of their mess. They want to pretend it disappears by magic. That you are not there. That you are not a person. Later, you help strip and redress the guest bedrooms. One of the noblewomen has tracked dirt and blood likely from her shoes across the coverlets. You change the linens, carry them to the wash, and mop the floors. You find a discarded brooch under the bed. A jeweled piece worth more than a year's wages. You report it. A footman takes credit. You get nothing. You return to your attic past midnight, too tired to eat the crust of bread hidden under your mattress. Your bunkmate is gone. They were dismissed this morning. No explanation. They were just gone. You stare at the empty space and wonder when your turn will come. Then you lie down, let the cold swallow you, and wait for the next day to begin. The days blend together, a continuous blur of labor, humiliation, and silence. You begin to lose your sense of time. Was that spill you cleaned from last week or yesterday? Did you eat today? Did you sleep? There's no real distinction between the days because every one of them is the same, and none of them belong to you. You start to forget your own name. You respond only to girl or boy or you there. You forget what your voice sounds like because you speak so rarely. One morning, a new servant arrives. They're young, barely into their teens. Their eyes are wide, hopeful. That won't last. You don't warn them. You know they won't believe you anyway. No one ever does. Not until the reality sinks in like cold water in their bones. That day, you're sent to clean the private study of a duke. You've never been inside it before, and stepping into it feels like entering another world. Heavy velvet curtains block out the sunlight. Thick rugs muffle your footsteps. The air smells of tobacco and expensive ink. You clean quickly, carefully, not touching anything unnecessary. But while dusting a shelf, a stack of papers topples to the floor. Your heart stops. You scramble to gather them. Pages of letters, notes, a map. You're just placing the last one when the Duke walks in. He sees you. He sees the papers. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't care about your explanation. That night, you're sent to the scullery to scrub iron pots that haven't been used in weeks, crusted black with old grease. You work until your knuckles bleed. The next morning, you're forced to stand for 2 hours with your hands behind your back, while the steward lectures the other servants about clumsiness and disrespect. He never says your name, but everyone knows. They always know. Gossip among servants travels faster than light, but it's never spoken above a whisper. And no one comforts you. That would draw attention. That would be dangerous. Some nights, a few of you manage to exchange a few hushed words after lights out. You share old memories, your mother's bread, a sibling's laughter, the way the stars looked from your childhood window. Tiny scraps of identity passed around like rations. One servant, older, says she's been here for 20 years. You wonder how she's still breathing. Another talks about running away, about escaping through the service tunnels. Everyone listens, but no one believes it. There's nowhere to run to. No one on the outside would take you in. Your property. Branded not with fire, but with poverty, with the invisible chains of class. Your name is not yours. Your body is not yours. Your time is not yours. It belongs to the palace, to the system. And the only way out is to survive until you're too broken to be useful. Then they let you go. If you're lucky, you might get a few coins and a worn-out dress. More often, you're simply replaced. The palace doesn't run on magicit, it runs on misery. And no matter how grand the feasts, how gilded the walls, or how beautiful the gardens, none of it exists without your suffering. You are the hidden machinery behind every luxury, and you are expected to break, but still, you rise. Day after day, you sweep, scrub, serve, and suffer. Because the only thing more terrifying than staying here is what waits beyond the palace gates. Then comes winter, and everything somehow gets worse. The palace grows colder than you imagined stone could be. It sucks the heat from your bones like a leech. There is no fire in the servants' quarters. You sleep wrapped in whatever rags you can find sometimes, with straw stuffed into your clothes, just to keep your teeth from chattering. Your breath clouds the air at night, and frost creeps across the inside of the windows in delicate spider-like patterns. You wake with stiff joints and blue fingers. Some of the older servants cough blood in the mornings. You've stopped asking questions. The work continues. The nobles complain even more now about drafts, about cold floors, about food not being hot enough by the time it reaches them. That means more work for you. Heating water, reheating dishes, stoking fires in distant rooms. Running, always running, across stone floors so cold, your feet feel like shattered glass inside your shoes. You develop chilblain swollen, itchy blisters from the cold. Your hands crack open, leaking red onto white linens. The headmaid doesn't care. She hands you gloves that are too small and expects you to keep going. The pain means you're still alive, she says, not unkindly, just factually. One night, the prince's hunting hound dies. No one knows how. It's found stiff and bloated in the stables, and for some reason, they blame you. You're made to scrub the entire kennel floor with freezing water and vinegar. No gloves, no boots. You crawl on your hands and knees until your fingernails turn purple and your knees go numb. No one defends you. Not the stable hands. Not the other maids. They're too afraid. You understand. You would do the same. That night, you cry. Not loudly, just tears silently rolling down your face while you lie awake on the straw mattress. You don't wipe them away. It's the first time in months. You thought you'd forgotten how. In the morning, a boy you barely know shares a corner of bread with you. No words are exchanged. You break it in half. For a moment, there's something like comfort. Then the bell rings. Back to it. The palace is preparing for a winter festival now. That means more decorations, more guests, more work. Every surface must shine. Every hall must be filled with candlelight. You hang garlands until your arms feel like they might fall off. You haul crates of candles up 5 flights of stairs. The wax sticks to your skin. Your sweat turns to ice. One noble woman demands her entire suite be redecorated with gold-trimmed cloth before the guests arrive. She doesn't like the current pattern. You and 2 others stay up until 3 a.m., stitching, cutting, and hanging fabric until your fingers bleed. When you're done, she doesn't even notice. She cancels the whole design. That's common. Waste isn't their concern. Time means nothing to them. Labor is invisible. People like you are background noise, like creaking floorboards or squeaky hinges. One day, a noble's child wanders into the kitchens and cuts their finger on a knife left out to dry. The cook is dismissed. A maid is beaten. You were in the room but did nothing wrong. Still, they accuse you. You are forbidden to leave the scullery for 2 days. Your job is to scrub the flagstones with vinegar and salt. Over and over again. Your knees bruise. Your back aches. No one comes to check on you. But someone leaves a crust of bread by the door. You eat it slowly, savoring each bite like it's a banquet. Somehow, the smallest kindness hurts more than all the cruelty. Because it reminds you you're still human. That's the worst part. You're not supposed to be. You're supposed to forget. To surrender completely. But some nights, when everyone else is asleep, you stare at the rafters and remember who you were. Just for a minute. Before morning comes and takes it all away again. One day, a foreign ambassador visits the palace. That means panic. That means inspection. Everything must be spotless. From the stables to the candle sconces in the hallways, no one uses. You're assigned to the ambassador's corridor, scrubbing floors on your knees for 10 hours. Not just clean gleaming. The stone must reflect torchlight like polished silver. The head of staff walks past every hour, checking behind doors, under tables, along the edges of baseboards. You're told, if even one speck of dust is found, all of you will be punished. The fear isn't exaggerated. You remember last time, someone left a faint footprint on a windowsill. No one admitted fault, so the whole corridor was flogged. You still have the scar, a thin white line across your lower back. You never even worked that corridor. It didn't matter. Collective discipline, they call it. You call it cruelty. The ambassador finally arrives, and you catch a glimpse of him from behind a pillar tall, richly dressed, with fur-lined boots and a jeweled clasp at his collar. His breath fogs the air as he laughs and claps the Duke on the back. Their conversation echoes in the stone halls. It's about land, marriage, politics. Nothing to do with you. And yet somehow, your entire existence bends around it. His visit means more work. His comfort means your exhaustion. His meal means more dishes, more fires to tend, more wine to decant, more laundry to press. And when he leaves, they throw a banquet to celebrate. You help prepare it. You iron 20 linen tablecloths until the creases blur before your eyes. You polish silverware until your fingertips are raw. You lay out place cards, candles, flower arrangements. You catch a glimpse of yourself in a mirror, hollow eyes, pale skin, a servant's dress smudged with soot. You look like a ghost. You are a ghost. That night, while nobles laugh and drink and dance to string music in the ballroom, you carry trays of roasted meat and candied fruit through corridors lit with hundreds of candles. The scent of cinnamon and wine makes your stomach ache. You haven't eaten since yesterday. But you can't show hunger. That would be improper. You can't pause. That would be laziness. You are a shadow moving between rooms. You are the silence in the corners. You hear laughter, the clink of crystal glasses, the rustle of silk gowns, but not as a guest, never as a guest. After the banquet, it's your job to clean, to scrape bones from platters, wipe wine from floors, gather wilted flowers, and carry away candle stubs. You're one of 20 servants doing this silently while the music still plays. While nobles still twirl and smile and call for more wine, you are invisible, even as you clean inches from their shoes. No one thanks you. No one sees you. Just before dawn, you carry the garbage to the outer yard. The wind slices through your thin clothes. You dump buckets of grease, bones, and spoiled cream into a pit that reeks of decay. You gag. You wipe your face. You walk back inside. The halls are finally quiet. The candles are out. The rugs are stained. The flowers are dying. It's time to begin cleaning again. There is no rest, only the next task. Only the endless repetition of duties too meaningless to remember, and yet too important to get wrong. And all the while you wonder, how can a place this grand be built on so much suffering? How can something so beautiful feel like a prison? The answer, you realize, is that beauty is not the opposite of cruelty. It is often its mask. And in the royal palace, that mask is worn by every except the servants. You see everything. You clean everything. You know what lies beneath the gold and marble. You know the truth. And still, you stay. Because you must. Because you have nowhere else to go. Because this palace, for all its horrors, is the only world you've ever known. Spring arrives, but it doesn't feel like a reprieve. It just means different problems. Now the palace grounds are flooded with mud, and your job expands outdoors. You're sent to help prepare for the annual garden celebration. You rake leaves until blisters form between your fingers. You haul baskets of fresh flowers up the winding stairs to the ballroom, petals falling behind you like a trail of discarded hope. You clean fountains with green algae clinging stubbornly to the stone. Your shoes never dry. You develop a cough that won't go away. The head gardener yells if a single rose droops. You want to scream, but you nod instead, and you work faster. The palace looks alive, agate green hedges sculpted into spirals, birds chirping in cages, bright banners fluttering in the breeze. To the guests, it's paradise. To you, it's hell in bloom. You're reassigned to the guest wing. Rich families from across the kingdom visit. Their children run screaming down the corridors, knocking over candles and slamming doors. You clean up after them. You are scolded when they cry. Their parents treat you like part of the furniture barely worth noticing, unless you're in the way. One noblewoman scolds you for wrinkling her bedsheets. She screams that you're deliberately trying to sabotage her sleep. You remade the bed 6 times. She made you do it again. Another nobleman pinches your arm as you pass. No one sees. You can't say anything. You don't even flinch. You've learned that reacting only makes it worse. That night, you lie in bed and stare at the ceiling beams. Your muscles ache, your scalp itches, and your stomach growls. Still, you can't sleep. You start to dream with your eyes open of running through a field with no end, of warm bread in your hands, of someone calling your name just to ask if you're okay. Then the bell rings, morning already. You rise, you serve, you continue. The days become heavier, even as the air turns warm and the skies stay bright for longer. Joy in the palace is like sunlight filtered through stained glass, beautiful, but cold and distant. It's not meant for you. You hear that one of the junior lords is getting married. There's to be a grand wedding. You're pulled from your normal duties to help sew ribbons and hem dresses. You prick your fingers dozens of times, red dots appearing like ink stains across the fabric. When the day comes, you help dress the bride. She is young, nervous, crying quietly. No one comforts her. Her tears are ignored the same way yours were. You recognize the look in her eyes, the look of someone being pushed into something with no escape. Later, you serve food at the reception. The music is loud, the nobles are drunk, and someone spills gravy on your apron and laughs. You keep smiling. You keep moving. One of the kitchen boys collapses from heat exhaustion. He's dragged out by two others and never seen again. No one talks about it. The staff simply closes, ranks tighter, works faster. No time for grief. No room for questions. At night, you steal a moment in the laundry room. You find an old, dry bar of soap and run your hands under the warm rinse water. You scrub, not just the dirt, but everything, your thoughts, your memories, your anger. It doesn't work. You are still here. You are still tired. You are still a servant. One day, a visitor mistakes you for part of the tour. She asks if she can take your picture. You freeze. She lifts her camera anyway. You flinch when it clicks. She thanks you, completely unaware that she just captured your exhaustion, your silence, your invisible labor forever. That night, you wash your face and stare at your reflection in the water bucket. You don't recognize yourself. You whisper your name, just to see if it still sounds real. It does. Barely. Then you return to your cot. You curl into yourself. You sleep until the bell rings again. Because that's what you do. Because that's all you're allowed to do. Years pass. You lose track of how many. The seasons blur together-y winters, muddy springs, suffocating summers, and brittle autumns that snap like old bones. Your body changes before your mind does. Your back stoops. Your knees grind. You can no longer rise without pain. You no longer flinch at shouted orders. You simply obey, out of habit, out of exhaustion. You see younger servants arrive fresh-faced, uncertain, frightened. You don't speak to them much. You see yourself in them, and you know what's coming. You don't have the heart to warn them. Let them hope a little longer. Let them believe it will get better. The palace itself feels like it's feeding on you, like it grows stronger the more you fade. The halls that once felt so grand now seem endless, suffocating. The chandeliers don't sparkle anymore. The tapestries look faded. Or maybe it's just your eyes. Some days you forget what year it is. You forget your age. You forget the sound of your own laughter. There are times when you stand in a room and can't remember why you entered. You stand there, unmoving, until someone yells and snaps you out of it. You apologize. You bow. You scurry away. The head steward retires. A new one replaces him, harsher, younger, full of pride. He doesn't know your name. He calls you old girl. You pretend not to care. But it stings. Because once, a long time ago, you had a name. You had dreams. You were going to be something. Then the palace swallowed you whole. The royal family ages too. You watch from the sidelines as children grow into nobles, marry, and have children of their own. You serve them all. You press their clothes, light their candles, clean their messes. They never remember you. To them, you've always been here, like the walls, like the dust. The queen dies. You help dress her body. You press the funeral robes, comb her hair, place the pearls on her neck. You aren't allowed to cry. You don't want to. She never once looked you in the eye. But still, something about her cold silence in death mirrors your own life too closely. At the funeral, you stand at the back, behind the other servants. No one acknowledges you. The nobles sob. The bells toll. A new queen rises. Nothing changes. You return to work the next day as if nothing happened. One evening, a mouse finds its way into the kitchen. The new steward demands it be caught immediately. You're handed a broom and ordered to stay until it's found. You stay up all night, your joints aching, sweeping through pantries, overturning crates. You catch the mouse in a cloth bag and let it go behind the stables. You lie and say you killed it. The steward nods, satisfied. You shuffle back inside. On your way to bed, you pass a window and pause. The sky is deep purple, stars scattered like spilled salt. For a moment, the air feels different, cleaner. get cooler. You press your hand against the glass. You wonder what the world outside the palace is like now. Is it better? Is it worse? Don't know. You've forgotten. You tell yourself you'll leave someday. You've said that before, but now you don't even believe it. Still, you whisper it again, like a prayer. Someday. You return to bed, curl up and sleep. When you dream, it's not of freedom anymore. It's of silence, of peace, of being allowed to rest without guilt, of being allowed to just be. But when you wake, the bells ring again. So you rise, you dress, you serve. Because even now, even after everything, you don't know how to do anything else. The palace has become your skin. The silence has become your voice. The suffering has become your purpose. And so, the story continues. One morning, you wake up and the ache in your joints is worse than usual. You sit up slowly, each movement feeling like a negotiation with your own bones. The room is still dark, save for a sliver of dawn light cutting through the shutters. You cough, a deep, hollow sound that rattles in your chest. No one notices. No one ever does. You dress in silence. Your uniform is fraying at the cuffs. You tried to mend it last week, but the thread kept breaking. There are better fabrics stored away for official events, but those are not for you. Yours is rough, stained, washed too many times with lye. As you move through the servants' corridor, you pass newer maids who nod respectfully. Some even smile. You force your lips into a ghost of a smile back. You envy their optimism. You remember when you still thought hard work would lead to kindness, maybe even promotion. But those dreams have long since dried out, swept away like dust in the hallway. Breakfast service begins. The royal family eats behind closed doors while you and the others bustle like ants in the kitchen. The cook is in a bad mood. One of the footmen spilled cream and tracked it across the tiles. You're told to clean it. On your knees again, scrubbing a pale line that smells sour and metallic. You don't complain. You haven't complained in years. You don't even mutter. Complaints cost too much. You've seen what happens to those who speak too freely. They're dismissed, or worse, reassigned to the kennels. You once visited the kennel's dark, damp, reeking of waste and wet fur. You cleaned a dog's bedding while it growled from its cage. One of the handlers had a bite mark healing on his forearm. You never want to go back there. So now, you clean the tiles with a calm, empty expression, like a statue. That evening, a visiting prince arrives from the northern provinces. He's young, pale, arrogant. The household is thrown into chaos. Everything must be perfect. You're ordered to dust the portraits in the East Wing, a task usually saved for higher-ranking maids. You climb the ladder with shaky hands, feather duster trembling. As you lean forward to reach a high corner, your foot slips. For a second, the world tilts sideways. Then someone catches the ladder. A young stable boy. His hands are calloused, his face pale with shock. "Be careful," he says. It's the first kind word you've heard in months. You thank him. Your voice comes out hoarse. He nods, then disappears. You finish dusting and descend slowly, heart still pounding. Later, in the laundry room, you stare at your hands. They're cracked, knuckles swollen, nails ragged. You can barely remember what your hands looked like before the palace, before they belonged to labor, before they stopped being part of you and became just tools. You soak them in warm water, add a drop of stolen lavender oil, just for a minute, just to remember what it's like to feel human. But the bell rings again, always the bell. The prince wants a midnight supper. You're pulled from your cot to assist. You carry trays up the back stairwell, past gilded mirrors and heavy tapestries. Your feet drag, your chest burns. You pass a mirror and pause. The woman looking back is hunched, gaunt, eyes rimmed with sleepless shadow. You stare at her. She stares back. "This is not a life," you whisper. But it is. It is your life. You reach the prince's door. A guard opens it without looking at you. You enter, set the tray down, bow, and turn to leave. He doesn't thank you. He doesn't even notice you. Just like everyone else. You walk back down the stairs. past the flickering candle sconces, into the bowels of the palace where no one hears you, where no one sees you, where your footsteps echo like memories in an empty hall. You lie back on your cot. You do not cry. You do not pray. You close your eyes and drift into shallow, dreamless sleep. The kind of sleep that feels more like forgetting. A year slips by, marked not by celebrations or milestones, but by bruises fading, linens washed, and new cracks in the stone tiles beneath your feet. You exist in routine, now wake, serve, clean, obey, sleep. There is no room left in your days for thoughts of escape or even hope. You operate like the old dumbwaiter in the south wing, creaky, slow, but dependable. One evening, just before supper, you're asked to polish the silverware for a banquet. The prince is hosting diplomats. The kitchen is in chaos. Pans clang, voices shout. The cook is red-faced and furious over spoiled milk. You sit on a stool near the hearth, buffing forks and knives until they gleam. Your hands ache from repetition. A slip of your cloth leaves a small cut on your thumb, but you barely feel it. Blood wells up, bright and red and human. You wrap it with a scrap of linen and continue. You polish until your reflection blurs across the silver. A faint version of yourself, small, hunched, anonymous. You've stopped reacting to pain. That frightens you more than the cut. At the banquet, you serve wine. You glide between tables like a ghost, pouring, refilling, collecting emptied plates. The room is warm with candlelight, filled with laughter and the rich smell of roasted meat. None of it belongs to you. You're invisible in the middle of it. A diplomat drops a spoon. You bend to pick it up, and he pats your backside with a smirk. You freeze. No one sees. No one cares. You keep moving. Later, another servant finds you in the corridor with your hands clenched into fists, breathing hard. She says nothing, just stands beside you for a moment. Then she walks away. That tiny silence is the closest thing to comfort you've had in years. Eventually, you begin to break. Not all at once. Not loudly. It begins subtly one morning. You forget the sugar for the royal tea. Another day, you fail to hear the steward's order fast enough and are slapped across the face. You don't cry. You simply nod. He threatens to send you to the stables if it happens again. You understand? You try harder, but your body disagrees. Your knees swell. You cough blood into your apron and rinse it quietly in the scullery. No one notices. No one asks. At night, you dream of rivers, wide, clear, and endless. In the dreams, you float without effort, without pain. You always wake just before reaching the shore. The seasons turn again. Summer now. The palace is alive with activity garden parties, afternoon teas, guests in bright silks. You and the other servants work until your fingers blister and your spines scream. You're sweeping the courtyard one morning when a carriage arrives. A girl steps out 15, maybe, wearing new servant livery. She looks around, unsure. You remember that look. You meet her eyes and offer a small nod. She nods back, hopeful. You turn away before she sees your face too clearly. You don't want to ruin her first day. There's still time for her to pretend this life won't devour her. But deep down, you know, everyone ends up like you, eventually flattened, exhausted, half alive. Later, you're reassigned to the tower rooms. They're mostly storage, filled with dusty trunks and broken furniture. It's quiet. No one bothers you. You spend the days scrubbing forgotten corners, pretending you're somewhere else. The silence becomes a friend. You start writing little notes to yourself on scraps of cloth memories, wishes, names you once knew. You hide them in cracks in the wall. They feel like pieces of yourself, scattered like seeds. You wonder if anyone will ever find them, if they'll care, if they'll know you were here. At night, you walk the halls alone, long after the candles are snuffed and the nobles are asleep. The stone floors are cool under your feet. You listen to the wind through the stained glass windows, the hush of the palace exhaling. This is the only time it feels safe, the only time it feels like yours. You sit by a window and look out across the palace, grounds, gardens, walls, forests beyond. You wonder how far you could walk before someone noticed you were gone. Maybe an hour. Maybe not at all. Maybe they'd just assign someone else to your bed and continue as if you'd never existed. You press your forehead to the glass and whisper a name. Your own. Just to hear it again. Just to remind yourself that you still remember. Just to make it real. Then you return to bed, and you wait for the bell to ring. Then, one day, the bell doesn't ring. You wake up, blinking into stillness. The corridor outside your chamber is unusually quiet. You dress, slowly, stiff from a cold that clings to your bones, and open the door. No one is rushing past. No shouts, no footsteps. You make your way to the main kitchen, and it's empty. Pots hang undisturbed. A loaf of bread sits untouched on the table. You check the great hall, also empty. Then the servants' quarters. More silence. Finally, you find the head steward in the foyer, arguing with a royal messenger. Cholera, the messenger says grimly. The southern city is already overrun. The prince's party was exposed last week. The entire wing is quarantined. You freeze where you stand, Cholera. The word spreads fast. Fear faster. Servants whisper it in corners. Some flee the palace in the dead of night. Others barricade themselves in the upper floors. But you, where would you go? The world beyond the gates is no more welcoming. You return to work. But now, your tasks are different. You're moved to disinfecting chambers, vinegar, lime wash, boiling cloth. The smell is sharp and constant. You wear a kerchief over your nose. It doesn't help much. One by one, people vanish. You don't ask where they've gone. You already know. Soon, it's just a handful of you left. You work in pairs, cleaning room after room, burning linens, scrubbing walls. You don't sleep well. The coughing begins again. You lie to yourself. It's just fatigue. You cough into your sleeve and keep moving. The palace halls are quieter than ever. The only sounds are the echo of your footsteps and the distant creak of old wood. No music, no laughter. Even the nobles are silent behind their heavy doors. A week later, the steward dies. You find him slumped in a chair, eyes wide and glassy, lips blue. You don't scream. You just stand there, then quietly close the door. You report it. They nod. His body is removed. His name is not mentioned again. Someone else takes his place by evening. Work must continue. It always continues. But something shifts in you that day. You begin to count how many people have gone. 2 cooks, 4 maids, both scullery boys, 1 stable hand, the gardener, the bell ringer. You stop counting after 15. It's easier not to know. One night, you wander the palace alone. You reach the Libraria place you rarely see. It's thick with dust. You pull a book from the shelf at random, open it, and stare at the pages. You can't read it. Not really. The words blur. Your education ended when your servitude began, but you trace the letters with your fingers, wondering what story they held. What life lived in these pages. It feels like a different world. One you were never allowed to enter. You leave the book open on a table, just in case someone else comes, one day, and finds it. Maybe they'll sit. Maybe they'll read. Maybe they'll remember. The next morning, your body revolts. Fever, chills, a pain behind your eyes that pulses like a drum. You try to stand, you fall, you try again. You crawl to the water basin and drink from trembling hands. It tastes like iron. You know the signs. You've seen them in others. You lie down on your cot, wrap yourself in your thin blanket, and stare at the ceiling. You imagine the sky, the river from your dreams, a tiny house with a garden. You imagine laughter. You imagine being remembered. But you also know the truth, that here no one will mourn you. No funeral. No grave. Just a quiet, unnoticed ending in a forgotten corner of a palace that never knew your name. And still, you do not cry. You simply wait. For the end or for the bell. Whichever comes first. You wake up days later, or maybe only hours have passed. Time has melted into something shapeless. The fever has broken, but your limbs are weak and slow to respond. You drag yourself upright, shocked to be alive. The silence in the halls is heavier now, deeper, like the walls themselves are holding their breath. You hobble to the kitchens for water and find a young boy sweeping ash from the hearth. He looks up, startled. "Didn't think anyone else was left," he murmurs. You don't respond. You just nod. It's easier than trying to speak. That day, you eat bread so stale it scrapes your throat. But it stays down. You drink from the kitchen pump, wash your face, change into a clean apron, and return to the endless cycle of service. Fewer people means more tasks. Every room echoes with your effort. You find yourself talking aloud now, just to fill the space. Not loudly, just a whisper under your breath. Names of flowers you used to know, songs your mother sang. Little things, they help. One afternoon, you're cleaning a disused salon when you find a bird trapped between the window and the curtain. It flaps desperately, panicked, its wings beating uselessly against the glass. Carefully, you scoop it into your hands. It's trembling. You open the window and for a second the bird hesitates. Then it bursts into the air, vanishing into the sky. You stand there, hand outstretched, staring after it. For the first time in years, your throat tightens. That night, you return to your cot and cry not loud, not long, just enough to feel something move inside your chest. Just enough to remember you're still human. The seasons shift again. Life begins returning to the palace in cautious waves. New staff arrive, faces unfamiliar and too clean. You watch them from a distance. You see the fear behind their eyes. You see the way they flinch when the steward raises his voice. You know what's coming for them. The same cycle, the same weight. You want to warn them, but you don't. They wouldn't believe you. They never do at the start. The prince survives the plague, but only barely. He returns thinner, quieter, more paranoid. He no longer makes eye contact with servants. He insists on separate dishes, boiled clothing, sealed letters. You catch a glimpse of him once through a half-open door. He's pacing, muttering to himself, his hair wild. He's afraid. Good, you think. Let him be. The court resumes its routines. Parties, dinners, morning rides. The nobles dance again, drink again, laugh as if nothing ever happened. But things are different now. Fewer servants. Shorter tempers. You're asked to take on more rolls cleaning and sewing and chamber pot duty, often within the same hour. One evening, as you're folding linens, a maid from the laundry stumbles in crying. She's young, too young for all of this. You sit beside her on the floor, arms wrapped around her shaking frame. She sobs into your shoulder. You don't say anything. You don't need to. The comfort is in the silence, in shared understanding, in survival. Later, you show her how to boil lye without burning her hands. She thanks you. That word, a genuine thank you, hits harder than you expect. You lie awake that night staring at the ceiling again. But this time, your thoughts are different. You imagine a world beyond the palace, a small village, a quiet life, a field of lavender, a place where your name means something, where no bell controls your breath. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if you'll ever get there. But the thought itself is a small rebellion, a tiny flame. One morning, you find a letter tucked under your cot. There's no name, no seal, just a single sentence scrawled on old parchment. I'm leaving at first light. There's room for one more. Your heart skips. You hold the note all day, hidden in your apron pocket, turning it over, weighing the risk. That night, you don't pack. You have nothing to bring. Just your hands, your breath, yourself. At dawn, you walk past the kitchens, the hall, the bell that has owned you for years. You pass through the servants' gate and into the pale morning fog. You don't look back. The palace vanishes behind you like a dream that never belonged to you. The world ahead is uncertain, but it's yours now, for the first time. Yours.